guys, welcome back to Simple Sacred Home. My name is Paige, and today I wanted to share with you what I'm doing to prepare for labor and birth of baby number 2. So if you're unfamiliar with my story, I had my daughter last year and I found out I was pregnant with this baby 8 months postpartum, and so we're welcoming another baby this year, which I'm very excited about. I will link the birth story for baby number 1 down below, as well as here up in the card somewhere, in case you guys are interested. But a little bit of a backstory. Basically, with my daughter, my dream plan, and it's been my dream since I was probably like 20, was to have a home birth. So with my first baby, I was planning a home birth, and then a couple things came up early in the first trimester with her that made me think I might not be able to have a home birth. And so we were waiting on a few things to come back. And by the time all of the information we had gathered came back, it was about 20 weeks into the pregnancy. And so I just decided to continue the midwife care that I was already set up with, and I delivered with midwives at the hospital. With my intention being a home birth, I really wanted to have a natural birth. With having the hospital birth and not being prepared the way that I really needed to be with my first, I ended up getting an epidural, and I also had some Pitocin because my labor had stalled. So that's a little bit of the context with baby number 1. I still had a positive birth story. I would say it was a positive hospital birth story, but it definitely wasn't my dream birth scenario. I knew that if I ever had a baby again, that I would really like the chance to try for a natural birth. So I thought it'd be fun to share what I'm doing different to prepare for baby number 2, and hopefully it will give you guys some ideas if this is your first baby that you're preparing for, or you're just looking to do things maybe a little bit differently with your second pregnancy. Okay, so at the time of filming this, I'm 26 weeks pregnant, so these are things that I've currently doing. I've been doing for several weeks at this point. Basically, as soon as those contractions started, I realized how unprepared mentally I was. I had it in my head that I was going to have a natural birth, but I was not mentally prepared for what it was going to be like once the contractions had started. And it's very easy in those moments to completely scrap your original plans. And so for me, I knew that if I was going to try for a natural birth again, that I needed the mental prep work. So the first 2 things are things that I'm not doing that I did do with baby number 1, and that is to tell people the exact due date as well as tell people my birth plan. This is just a personal preference thing, but I was so excited to tell people the due date with baby number 1, and I had heard other people talk about how they don't like to share the due date, and I always kind of kept that in the back of my mind. But for me, I didn't think it would bother me at all. But the reality is that when you reach that due date, or you get close to that due date, well-meaning people are going to start calling, texting, checking in on you, which is so nice. And so that's why I say it's all well-meaning. They're excited for you, especially with your first. They just are excited for the baby to come, but you'll get texts like, did the baby come yet? How are you doing? Are you in labor? And like I said, all well-meaning, but when you are in those last weeks of pregnancy, it really is a mental game. And so every day you're like, okay, I could go into labor today, and you're thinking about how you're going to plan your day and what you're going to do, and am I going to end up going into labor? And so it's a really weird time of waiting. And for me personally, I just didn't enjoy having to get those texts or calls and have to say no, still no baby. So that's totally a preference thing, but for me, I just didn't want to tell people our exact due date this time around, just to avoid getting those floods of text messages. Okay, and then the second thing that I'm not doing this time around is telling people my birth plan. So again, with my first, I was really excited to tell people my birth plan. I knew that a lot of people would be anti-home birth because a lot of people don't understand it. I know that a lot of people are even like anti-natural birth because they're like, oh yeah, everyone thinks they're going to do a natural birth until you're in it. And I understand that, but I just think the opinions of others are very unnecessary. For me, I didn't want any influence on my decision of what I was going to do. And the reality is that when you tell people, even if you don't tell people, they're going to share their stories, they're going to share their traumatic stories, their positive stories, they're going to give their opinion on whether they think you should give birth in the hospital or give birth at home, or if you should let people into the hospital room with you, or if you should have an epidural, if you shouldn't get induced, if you should. And I just didn't want anybody's comments or concerns this time around, which might sound harsh, but the reality is, like I said, it's a very personal preference. And while I would love to share, and I probably will share after the fact, I really do think it's fun to share. I didn't want to share prematurely this time around. And so only the people on my birth team are aware of the birth plan. And that's the other thing, is that with a birth plan, my midwives last time did make a very interesting point, and they say that they recommend calling it birth preferences rather than a birth plan, because a plan makes it sound a little bit more like concrete, whereas with birth preferences, it's like, this is what you would ideally like to happen, but if it doesn't happen, it's not the end of the world. Because a lot of people do get really worked up on having their birth plan go exactly as they want it to, and the reality is that sometimes we do have to pivot and things don't exactly go the way we would like them to. But I think it is good to have that set of expectations of what you would ideally like to happen, and be excited for that and plan for that, but also know that things might have to pivot. Okay, and the other things that I'm doing to prepare mentally for baby number 2, labor and birth, is taking a few different courses. I have heard tons of great things about the Bradley method. If you guys watch like Farmhouse on Boone, her sisters, they are very much big advocates on the Bradley method, and a lot of other people are as well. And what I really liked about the Bradley method is that I think they said like 80% or so, I might be off a little bit, but about 80% of those that plan to do the Bradley method end up having a natural birth, which I think is a very good percentage. And so I was really interested in that. And so last pregnancy, I got this book by Susan McCutcheon, Natural Childbirth the Bradley Way. And I got this on Thrift Books. So you can check your library and things like that, but that's where I found mine. And I had got this with baby number 1, and I started to read it, but I was also like planning the silly things, like all the things you need for a baby when it's your first, and setting up the nursery and all that. And so I didn't read through the book as quickly as I would have liked to. And so by the time I realized, like, wow, I haven't gone through this as fast as I would like, I thought maybe I should try to find a Bradley method course that I can take in person. And when I started looking up different courses in my area, I realized that all of them were like 12 to 18 weeks long, and I would have already had the baby before the course was done. And because it is an investment, I decided not to, and I really regret that I hadn't looked into a course sooner. I think it would have been very beneficial. I knew this time around that I wanted to take the Bradley method course, and so I was looking for ones in my area. Most Bradley courses that I'm aware of are in person, so you can check like your local hospitals. Leaders have them right inside their homes, and even like your birth centers might offer them. So definitely look into those, but I would look into those early on in pregnancy. That way you make sure you sign up for a course that will finish before baby's actually here, so that you can go through all the material. I actually did find a course online. Those are far and few between, but you might be able to find one that is online. So if you're unable to make in-person visits, or if there's no in-person courses in your area, then you can still get the information. They have a Bradley method student workbook. So I've been going through this with the class, and then I also do have the book as well. Okay, the other thing that I did with baby number 1 that I wish I had started sooner and more consistently was I downloaded the Christian hypnobirthing app, which I know If you've never heard of that, you're probably like, oh gosh, hypnobirthing, that sounds very new agey. I promise you, I thought the exact same thing, and it's really not. It's just this app. Basically, it's just these tracks where the instructor is basically talking in a very calm voice. She does like scripture verses where she just reads the scripture. It has really beautiful, relaxing music in the background. Also, there's some tracks on like positive affirmations, so things like my body was designed to do this, things like that. There's also tracks on breathing techniques. So I had downloaded it with my daughter and I would put it on every once in a while towards the end of my pregnancy. But this time around, I started it probably as soon as I entered the second trimester, so right around like 12 or 13 weeks. And basically I put on the tracks every single night before I go to bed, and I just let them run. Also, they said doing it before bed and falling asleep to it if you can is really good, because it's going to help your mind associate those tracks with relaxation and rest, which is really important as well for labor and delivery, because you want your body to be in the most relaxed state it can be in, which obviously sounds counterintuitive when you hear that labor is painful and hard, and it can be those things, but the reality is the more relaxed we are and the more we're able to go through it, the easier it is for our body to do what it needs to do. In addition to the Christian hypnobirthing app, they do offer a course. What I like about their course, it's called the Faith-Filled Birth Course, I think. What I like about it is a paid subscription that you pay monthly, but the reality is you can go through it as fast or slow as you want. So you could, I think it's like $30, which is kind of pricey to be paying month after month, especially if you also are having any other courses that you're paying for, or you have the Christian hypnobirthing app. I think just the tracks itself, it's like $9 a month. So obviously all those things add up. But what I did was I paid for the Christian Faith-Filled course, and I just tried to go through it as fast as I could. So I would take every nap time that my baby had, or at the end of the day once she went to bed, and I just busted through the course as fast as I could, and I ended up finishing it in 1 month. And I just wrote down everything that I could that I thought would be helpful to me. And obviously I took my time in the sense of like, I made sure that I got all the information I needed and I didn't like super rush past anything, but I also tried to keep it at a speed where I could get through the course, and that way I could cancel the subscription, because once again, $30 a month is an added expense. So that's another option as well. I honestly really did enjoy the Faith-Filled course a lot. It has pregnancy information, it has labor and birth information obviously, but then also postpartum and breastfeeding. So I think it's definitely worth it if you can. Maybe just do it for the 1 month or so to get the information that you need, and then go ahead and cancel. But if you do want it for multiple months and you really want to go slow and take your time, that's also an option as well. But I would say that course was definitely very beneficial for me, and I like that it obviously had the spiritual components to it as well. Okay, a couple other mental things that I've been doing is I've been setting up a labor and birth playlist. I have no idea if I'm going to want to listen to music, but what I realized with my first is that I didn't know what I would want, so I kind of didn't prepare for anything. Whereas this time around, I don't know what I'm going to want, so I'm preparing for everything. I'd rather have all the options available to me, and that way if I want to use them, I can, rather than not having them easily accessible and then the scrambling. Another super easy one is to just listen to positive birth stories. I think it's really beneficial to get as many positive birth stories as you can. You always hear about the bad stories, and obviously those are people's experiences. There are things that can happen, there are things that you might want to be aware of, but if you're preparing for labor and birth, it's probably not the best idea to be filling your mind with all the what ifs. And so I've been just taking the time to listen to podcasts on birth, natural birth, and also YouTube videos on people's personal experiences with natural birth and positive natural birth stories. So that has been really helpful. I've been creating a birth prayers and affirmation board basically. So I have a felt board that I'm using, but you could get a cork board, you could just use a poster board. And basically what I'm putting on there is affirmations that I can look at during labor, ones that I want to really lock in on, specific Bible verses. I'm writing specific prayers to the Lord about what I would love to happen or not to happen in my labor, and being very specific, asking for very specific things. And what's nice about this is you can have this hung up somewhere in your home while you're pregnant so that you can constantly add things to it and look at things, you know, pray over certain things, but then also you can take it with you to the birth center. You can take it with you to the hospital. If you're having a home birth, you obviously already have it at home. Physical prep, I am trying to walk at least 3 times a week. And then the other thing I'm doing physically is the Bradley Method relaxation position. So this is something that I'm practicing as often as I can, like every day, every other day. But it's basically this very specific position that's talked about in the Bradley Method. It's like the most optimal position for getting super relaxed and allowing your body to work through the contractions without tensing, which can make labor more painful and take longer and things like that. So there's a very specific position that you want to lay in, and so I've been practicing that, so I have that tool available to me when I'm in early labor. Other random prep things that I'm doing this time around that I didn't with my daughter is I am seeing a lactation consultant before I actually give birth. I just was so unprepared for having a breastfeeding problem. I just didn't even know that that was a thing. And so this time around, I really wanted to talk with a consultant before I gave birth. That way, if I do have a problem, once the baby's here, I already have a connection with a lactation consultant, and I'm going to talk with them, go over some of my concerns and the things that I struggled with the first time around. And then hopefully, if I do run into any problems in early postpartum, I'm able to go and see that lactation consultant and hopefully resolve any issues we do have. So that's something I would highly recommend if you are new to breastfeeding and you're just thinking it's gonna be a breeze, because it might not. The other thing is having a scheduled appointment as well for a chiropractor. So this one is great at the end of pregnancy if baby is in the wrong position. I just reached out to my chiropractor. I don't see them super regularly, but I wanted to reach out, let them know that I was pregnant and that I would like to be seen towards the end of my pregnancy. That is the plan. If I need it, I'm gonna be like closely monitoring baby's position with my midwife, and if she thinks that the chiropractor would be a benefit to get baby in the right position, if they're not already, then I will do that. And then the last thing that I'm considering this time around, obviously this isn't like a locked in thing, but if I go past my due date, I would really like to get a massage, like a prenatal massage. I've heard really good things about doing prenatal massages at your due date, or if you go past your due date, after your due date, because it really helps your body relax, can help labor get started. Because I was overdue with my daughter, I am a little worried about going overdue again, because I don't even want the topic of induction to come up. And so I think I'm going to be a little bit more eager to try to make sure that I'm in a state that my body can feel comfortable going into labor. So yeah, that's just something that I'm looking into. I don't know if I definitely will do that or not, but it is something that I'm considering and I have on my radar. That is what I'm doing. I hope that was helpful to you if you are thinking about getting pregnant, or you currently are pregnant and you're preparing for a natural birth. And I will see you guys in the next one.